So, Chris, we've talked before about selling on price and how that's something you want to avoid. So why don't we start by explaining, what does selling on price mean?
Well, it means that your differentiator is price. And so, which there are business models out there that are designed for that purpose, right? Walmart's one of them, to where you're the low cost provider. And what it means is you need lots of volume. So if you're going to play in that world, then you need lots of volume, and you are literally going to be the low cost provider, and that's your market. Now, there's only one low cost provider, and if you come in second, it sucks, right? So
True.
so you have to really be dedicated to be the low cost provider if that's the business model you're going after. So there's nothing wrong with it. I think people see sometimes that there's a negative connotation of that, and there's really not. There's nothing wrong with that. Somebody's going to play in that market, and there's nothing wrong with going after that business model. There can only be one.
Yeah.
So
I mean, there's only one.
Really good at it.
There's only one lowest, and there's only one highest.
Correct.
So if you're stuck in that middle area, what do you do? Which way do you recommend people go? Raise your prices a little bit to get more high-end quality over quantity customers, or do you try and get more quantity over quality?
I think it really depends on what you want to do. Personally, I would go up, but but there are people really good at selling with the low cost solution. Get in, get out quick, and it may mean that you don't do some things that other people would do, and as long as you're upfront with the customer, I have no problem with that. As long as they know what they're getting, and now, just going back in history and mistakes that I've made, every once in a while, because I'm very, very competitive, I get caught up in that world. I try to avoid it as much as I can, but every once in a while I just want to win, and I'll get caught up and the last time, it was probably 2 or 3 years ago. And this customer, I should have just walked away right away. I mean, as soon as he told me I've gotten 4 other quotes, and I was very upfront and said, I'm not going to be the lowest right here. And I tried to say that right up front. But as soon as he said I've gotten 4 other quotes already, for me, that's a red flag on our business model.
Sure.
We try to do a lot of selling before we actually even talk to the customer, and we can talk about that in another episode, because it's really important, especially if you're not going to be the low cost provider. But I got caught, and my competitive juices were flowing, and I really wanted to win. And he kept saying, well, this guy can kind of like the ad that was shot the other day where we were messing around with some funny stuff, and I got caught just wanting to win. And he kept coming back to me saying, well, this guy said he could do it for this, and I would lower it. And then he said, well, this guy, he literally played that game on me.
Yep.
And finally I just said, yeah, man, I'm done. You should go with the other guy. But I wasted, I mean, he was calling my cell phone. I was at the Reds game, and I was negotiating, and it was a nightmare. It was a mess. I spent 5 hours with the guy. I went out to his house, did all this stuff.
Yeah.
Talking back and forth, negotiating all this. It was probably a total of 5 hours, and I had no prayer of winning. And I should have just walked away early.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because I did what I did, probably the other guy or the other 3 guys, however many people were in this situation, or women, somebody got beat down farther than I did, and because we were all probably doing this, then nobody probably made any money.
So race to zero.
Race to zero, exactly it.
Yeah. I mean, and that's also a sign of probably many other red flags that are possible in the relationship with that customer, such as them being, wanting more than you offered originally, because if they're beating you up over the price this bad, it's something else to watch out for.
Well, the other thing is that it was very obvious, and I should have seen this, and I was blinded because I just wanted to win. But it was very obvious he didn't care about anything else. And for our business and our business model, the value add proposition that we do, you have to care about how good of a quality job is done, what kind of quality products you're getting, all the features and benefits that we bring with our products. And I should have seen that right out of the gate, and my competitiveness got
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Which I think a lot of people can relate to. But to know that you're selling on price, you really do need to know your pricing structure and how low you
Yes.
can go. And if you go too low, you're losing money. So then that speaks to the knowing the data behind your business and what is too low and when
Yeah.
you should walk away. So how do you
Yes.
keep that all straight?
Well, it really defines what your business model looks like. I mean, we've talked before about working 14 hours a day and not having an office manager and not, well, if you're going to be the low cost provider, you probably are all of those things, which I think is easy to get caught up in. And I think it's easy to stay there. And it's hard to break out of that environment, because when you start a business, people around here will tell you, the guys that have been here the whole time, you say yes to everything because
Yeah.
you need revenue.
Yeah.
There
yeah.
is no when you start,
Sure.
right? You're saying, yep, I'll do it. Yep, I'll do it. And because you're just getting revenue in to feed the business. And as you grow and as you mature and as the business matures, you start saying no to more and more things. I say no to a lot more today than I did 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And because we've grown, we don't necessarily need every single sale like we needed day one.
Yeah.
And we've focused on specific customers that we can really target and really speak to, and they get benefit from us and we get benefit from them, which is a nice business relationship to have.
Yeah. If you're saying yes to every single small or medium-sized job, then you might be losing out on opportunities to do one big job. And I think it's true across a lot of industries where the big job leads to more big jobs. So if you're just chasing after the crumbs, then you don't get the opportunities to do the big whale of a job. So
yeah, and I think you also don't get, if you're the low cost provider, you're not spending as much time probably with a customer as you would if you were higher up in that scale. You don't have the conversations because you're in and out, and you got to go to the next job, and you're in and out. And personally, I gain a ton of value from talking to customers. I learn something every time, and it's all about the why. We've talked about it before. It's all about the why. And if I can figure out why you want something, why you feel like this is a valuable thing, why you feel like, then A, we can make great products, and B, we can service the customer a whole lot better.
yeah. So we're in the landscape lighting business. Are there any, because I think what we're talking about is applicable to a lot of service industry business owners.
Yeah.
Is there any industries that maybe pricing, going after the low price, going over after the quantity might be a good idea? Like where they don't want to chase after all the big jobs, they can just attack it hard with low cost.
I don't think it's industry specific. I think it's business model specific. I think if you looked at a business model of an electrician that was in a low cost provider versus a plumber that was a low cost provider, those business models probably look exactly the same.
Yep.
Right. The guy's probably got his personal truck that he's driving around. He doesn't have an office manager.
Sure.
He may have a temporary employee that he pulls in when he needs.
Yep.
But those two people look almost identical.
Yeah.
Right. And that's probably, you could take that to pest control, or you could take that to any other service industry you want. Probably very similar. Right.
Yep.
And then
Yep.
as you grow, then you start having, skinned vans, and you start having skinned trucks, and you start having office managers and salespeople, and the business starts to mature and allows you and affords, especially the owner of the business, to enjoy life a little bit more than you do the first year or two.
Yeah. I think it can be, maybe if you're priced one way right now and you're the cheapest in the industry, it's kind of scary to go, I'm going to change my whole structure and become way more expensive. And then you go, well, no one's going to buy this. But I think it's worth mentioning that there are many, many people, and I think it's, psychology, where people they look at a higher priced item and go, this is a better product. It's going to be more reliable. And they shop on price the other way, where I'm going to buy something that's more expensive, where if it's $20, it's like, that's too cheap. I'm talking about a specific little product. But if it's $50, I'll do that one. It seems better.
I think one of the biggest mistakes people make, and we've talked about avatars before, but I'm sure we'll talk about it again. But one of the biggest mistakes people make is they create an avatar that looks like them instead of looks like their customer.
Mm-hmm.
And so if your avatar is you and you wouldn't pay that much for whatever service you're providing, that doesn't necessarily mean the avatar that's your customer doesn't see value in that proposition and
Sure.
pay for that. So I think that's a huge mistake that a lot of people make is the avatar is them when it actually, the customer is not them.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's an easy trap to fall into and you have to be careful with it.
I mean, there's a lot of people out there who have a lot of money and want to hire people to do things that makes their life much, much easier.
Yeah.
And maybe most people aren't in that position, but you're going after the people who are.
I'll be honest. I mean, when I started the business, the avatar was me. That's how I started. I didn't want to put up Christmas lights anymore.
Yeah.
That's why I started the business.
Yeah.
And I made products that I wanted. I was the avatar.
Sure.
Now, luckily, there were other people that looked like me as being the avatar.
Yeah.
But today, I'm not the avatar. We have 6 avatars that we go after, and they don't look like me.
Yeah. So last question here. If you are a low cost provider right now and you want to transition to be more of, you price yourself in the right way where you can grow, should you do it all at once? Should you do an incremental raise in prices? Should you change the business name and start all over because people think of you as this one way? I mean, how do you get out of being the low cost provider?
Yeah, I don't think you have to change your business name or anything like that. I mean, unless it's crazy bad, I don't think
that's a different story.
I don't think that matters to a great deal. I think like we do even here, I think we fall into the trap of, well, we need to change our website because we're sick of seeing it. Well, the customer's not sick of seeing our website.
We see it every day, 100 times a day. Yeah.
And we're sick of it. But the customer's not sick of it. And as long as it's the right message, we probably shouldn't change it. If it's the wrong message, we should. But don't fall into that trap of you're sick of it, but nobody else is.
No, but you got a service for $100, but really you should be charging $500.
Yeah.
How do you make that transition?
Yeah, that's a tough one. It's a tough one, and it's tough more mentally than anything, to be honest with you. I think first you have to convince yourself that you are providing that value. And in a lot of cases you are. You just haven't convinced yourself you are.
Sure.
Right? And so a lot of and we get into a lot of sales in different spots in this series, but a lot of selling is confidence, right? And I'm a terrible salesperson. I am the worst. I'm not an extrovert. I am a terrible salesperson. I do decent at sales because they see me. I'm excited about the product. I'm enthusiastic about the product.
Yep.
I believe in the value that we provide is a tremendous value for our customers. And I have no problem with our pricing.
Yeah.
Right. And so with that confidence and that belief, no matter what I say, if I'm in front of the customer, the body language says everything.
Yes.
Right. And so there are lots of things in the selling proposition that we'll get into, but where they'll see that excitement, but you have to believe first. If you don't believe it, you're not going to sell anything. And then you're going to get frustrated because you're going to say, I raised my prices to 200, like Chris said, that dummy, and I can't sell anything. Well, it's because you don't believe in the value.
Yeah.
Right. You have to believe in the value, and then it'll work.
Sure. And I mean, if you raise your prices from 100 to 200 and then do nothing else, might not work. But if you then start to market to a higher end clientele and change your marketing strategy a little bit, so new people are seeing it for the first time. Again, your old customers are going to go, what? It doubled in price? But if you reach a new audience, it's the first time they're seeing it.
Let me give you an example. So we have multiple examples of this where $100 is a good number.
Easy. Yeah.
So let's say you need to go from $100 to $150, right? In order to execute hiring a office manager or hiring another person or whatever you wanted to do. Let's use office manager, for example. One of the values that provides is somebody's answering the phone, right? And your customers see value in that situation. Your customers get really frustrated when they've called. We've got customers like this, right? Yeah. When they call you 3, 4, 5 weeks in a row and nobody returns their calls and they can't get a hold of anybody and they don't know somebody's supposed to be there on a service situation on Tuesday and nobody called them, nobody notified them, and then you showed up Wednesday and nobody let them know.
Yeah.
There's a ton of value in what that office manager provided in that $150. Now, when you got there, you still did the exact same service that you would have when you charged them $100.
Yeah.
That extra $50 was all the ancillary other stuff, the communication, and customers value that greatly.
Yeah.
In the right market.
It's the overhead of the business. It's baked into every job.
And sometimes when you start off on your own, that's very difficult to comprehend and see.
Mm-hmm.
It's very difficult to say, I replaced a light switch for $100 and I'm replacing the light switch, the same light switch, right? 2 months from now for $100, but now I'm charging the customer for more.
Yeah.
Why? Well, it's because I provided more value by having a schedule. I showed up on time.
Yep.
Right. All these other things that happen, that I provided more value for the customer, that isn't anything more than replacing the light switch, but it's a ton more than
there's more
replacing the light
systems,
switch.
things involved.
Tons more. And there's more value provided to the customer.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I think that's good. We have a video that if it's not out right now, it will be soon about hiring an office manager, which I think is a good one. So people can check that out. Because if you're in a position where you're thinking about when is the right time to do that, that's a big jump in a person's business. So check out that video. We'll be sure to link it in the description of this video. But be sure to subscribe, follow us everywhere, Haven Lighting, find us online, and we appreciate you watching.